My name is Emily, and my claim today is that climate change is caused by human activity. So climate change is the rising of temperatures on the Earth's surface and also the changing weather patterns on their surface. So like the warming of glaciers or how hot it is in the summer than it usually is. This is usually due to the greenhouse effect, which is caused by carbon dioxide. Mainly carbon dioxide, but it can also be methane gas or nitrogen or just natural gas from the Earth. This is also considered global warming. They're kind of interchangeable, but climate change is more appropriate because it's about the changing of weather patterns. So the greenhouse effect is essentially the trapping of the gases within our atmosphere as they are burned. So it has been scientifically researched that the main cause for climate change is the gases that we produce, which is specifically CO2, which is carbon dioxide, causing a blocked heat. The overall consensus in the scientific community is that 97% believe in climate change, while the Climate Organization of NASA conclude that it is a 95% probability that is due to human activity. So NASA is the official concluder that it is a probability due to human activity. So climate change can be linked to human activity firstly due to fossil fuel burning. We can also see that it is also likely due to looking at the timeline in which our Earth has gotten warmer and how industrial building and agriculture causes more gas release than ever seen before. So firstly, fossil fuels are known to be the largest contributor in CO2 emissions, not just one of the contributors, but like the largest. According to the NASA Global Climate Change official website, human activity that includes the burning of oil and coal causes a great amount of CO2 to be trapped within our atmosphere. So our main problem is fossil fuels and the burning of the sources that cause the CO2. Also stated by Thomas Covert and company of the Economics Perspective Journal, approximately 65% of global greenhouse gas emissions are generated by fossil fuel combustion, while coal is responsible for 45% and oil for 35%. It can also be noted that the US and China lead in the CO2 emissions, but the US has the largest per capita, and capita is usually by population. So even though we have a smaller population than China, we release more than China. Another point to consider is that the Earth has had its warmest years and most extreme temperature changes in just the last 150 years. Stated by Rebecca Lindsay and Luann Dolman, members of the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, since the 1900s, the planet's surface has been warmed 1.5 degrees, and since 1975, this has been doubled to 2.7 to 3.2 degrees, with the record temperatures just in the last years of 2014 to 2016. They also want to state that the top 10 warmest years recorded have all occurred since 1998, with the ocean rising 7 to 8 inches since 1993, which is the largest it has grown since the last 2,800 years. So this shows that mainly after industrial ages, the use of more fossil fuels than in the past have caused the temperature levels to begin to increase. Also shown by the NASA Global Climate Change website, for centuries the atmospheric carbon dioxide warming effect has never been over the average until 1950. So the Earth has not experienced the amount of weather change and warming prior to the industrial boom and the use of fossil fuels. Other than burning fossil fuels, human activity that affects the climate change include the building of industrial lands and deforestation. Deforestation is the burning and tearing down of forests, which is the burning of basically biomass. Burning these forests produces carbon dioxide and at the same time destroys what help us produce oxygen, since forests are a large contributor to taking carbon dioxide and producing oxygen. From Lauren Bennett of the Climate Institute of NASA, she says, the biomass burning has both short and long-term effects. Vegetation acts as a sink, which sink is a storage unit basically, for carbon dioxide by storing it. As burning occurs, it can release hundreds of years of worth of carbon dioxide. We cause more harm by burning these forests than replacing it with forests, and then we replace it with industries and factories, so meaning there's no more forest to create oxygen and be that sink. So again, my claim is that climate change that affects our planet is visibly seen to be caused by human activity, whether it be big or small, due to fossil fuels, expanding industries, and reduced forestation problem.
All right, Emily, here's the deal. The proposition's pretty clearly identified. There's not really a preview of what the contents are going to be, and in the body of the speech, it was hard to pick out. At the end of the presentation, in your summary, I thought you did a pretty good job actually giving the material a little bit of structure, because now I can see that there is a section that deals with fossil fuel, a section that deals with industrialization, a section that deals with deforestation, but that wasn't very clearly set up at the beginning of the speech. And in the body of the speech, I did get one signpost on fossil fuels. That came kind of like two-thirds, well, not two-thirds, maybe a third of the way into the speech, so that seemed a little bit late. And then the other ones, like the deforestation one, feels almost like an after effect, or an afterthought. I mean, it's not quite as developed as the first 2 points. When it comes to information, I thought you did a very good job providing a variety of information from sources that you try to qualify on a regular basis. The NOAA, NASA, the authorities that you cite, you're pretty consistent about doing that. I thought that was fine. There's a good explanation of the theories that you're talking about here. So the only thing that I think is problematic here at the moment is the internal structure. And like I said, I think at the end of the speech, you do a pretty good job kind of reconstructing what the argument was as you were finishing up. So I appreciated that. Yeah, the delivery was fine also. You did a pretty good job trying to speak to the audience for the most part, so thank you.